All right. So, two things. The first thing, so I love it when it's like you hear God's voice and you do what He says, and then He'll confirm that it's His voice. Like He just did that with me right now. And it's a really good feeling, because sometimes you just you don't know, or at least I feel like I don't know sometimes. It's like I question it. You know what I mean? Like I just want to make sure I'm listening to God. I'm not listening to some other whatever, because that does happen. It does happen. It's usually when there's some type of breach. Like if I touch somebody or something like that, what they got comes into me and whatever. Long story short, God talked to me. I listened and He confirmed it tonight. And how He chose to do it tonight, I listened to Him, and then He goes, oh, you're listening. He goes, that's good. And I said, God, can you confirm that? And He goes, yeah. He goes, and it's not always with the Bible. It's like with other things. It just happened to be the Bible this time. And I pulled off to spend some time with God and read some things, spiritual things, which I'll share with you here in a minute. But I asked God to confirm it. And then he goes, yeah, read Jeremiah. And he goes, the 3rd verse. And I was like, oh, the 1st chapter? And he goes, yes, the 1st chapter and the 3rd verse. Anyways, so I do that. I get in, I open it, start reading it. It's like one of those books where it's like, oh, the kings with the lineage of this king and that thing, da-da-da. But the last little sentence of the verse was in the 5th month, and it's May right now. So that's pretty good confirmation. And then he'll double confirm it. Yo, if you triple do it right now, God, you're amazing. Almost. But anyways, he double confirmed it. He double confirmed it with his the 5th month, and then this car drives by, and then God hijacks my eyes, and it's he tells me that there's something there. So anyways, he did it, and it was there's a 5 at the end of the license plate. It seems silly, but it's this is God talking to you without using words. It's He uses words. He'll talk to you in your mind, but He also knows that the devil's there battling for your mind too, for that territory. They're fighting each other. And the devil might have space in your mind and you don't even know it. This realm and this life is so confusing and so difficult and so hard. He doesn't have to do anything. But He loves us so much, He does extra just to make sure that we get it sometimes. It's not always God's voice that you're hearing and listening to. You know what I mean? Which is kind of scary. It sucks sometimes. But even in those situations, God works all things out for the good of those who love Him. Anyways, so that's one thing. So God did a nice little confirmation there, and it was wonderful, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you, God. But another thing that I wanted to talk about real quick was this good old Nag Hammadi. The Nag Hammadi library was, I'm probably going to really mess this up, but it's similar to the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's things that were found later that were left out of the Bible, right? So these are the disciples. It's Jesus talking. It's all real stuff. It's not some thing about the Hermetic whatever ancient book of this or that has really nothing to do with Christianity, or it's secretly pagan. This is from the disciples. Anyways, I want to share this one little thing with you, because I was thinking about, I get so much out of these, it's crazy. And I was thinking about why I get so much out of it. And it's it just brings me really, really close to God, because it has me contemplating God in a way that this world and the way it pulls my attention out into the world, I don't spend that much time contemplating God. This just puts me right there with it. So I want to share a little something. So basically, this is Jesus. So John got confronted by Jesus. First, Jesus appeared as a baby. Then he appeared as an old man, and then told John, he's John, why are you afraid? This is the form you're familiar with. I'm the Father, I'm the child. Basically saying, like, it's me. I'm the one who's always with you. It's me. It's me, Jesus. So, then he said he was afraid, and light shone down. He was giving him visions, and light shone down from heaven onto the earth, and everything became filled with light. But here he goes. This is, my ears perk up on these writings when they start talking about God, when they start talking about the nature of God, God the Father, and the fact that he is just above everything. And oh, it's just so great. Like, I just love hearing about it. And it's just so much. It's not like just some person that's giving their interpretation on it. This is the Lord. This is a disciple's account of the Lord explaining God the Father. It's amazing. So, how about this one? The unity is a monarchy with nothing ruling over it. It is the gold and the Father of all, the holy invisible, who exists over all, the one who, in corruption, existing as pure light, into which it is not possible for any light of the eye to gaze. So that's one little step in that direction. But it really starts to hit me right about here. It says, it is the Spirit. It is not appropriate to think about it as God, or that it is something similar, for it surpasses divinity. It is a dominion having nothing to rule over it. And then, like, my mind, like, when I read this, my mind, like, contemplates it, like, in a supercomputer type of way. Like, I visit that for a second. Like, I visit that that dominion that has nothing to rule over it. Like I in an instant contemplate it, what that would be like, right? So, for there is nothing existing before it, nor has it have any need of them. And then I was like, oh God, I feel like you don't need me. But it's like, it's all a part of the contemplation. So the Nag Hammadi, specifically when they talk about God the Father and they explain his awesomeness, when Jesus explains it, it's not they, it's like, the disciples sometimes or what have you, but it's the Lord. It's like these are blessed writings, in my opinion. They're blessed and wonderful, and they really, really resonate with me a lot. It is immeasurable because there's no other to measure it, as though anything exists before it. It is invisible because there's no one to see it. It is an eternity existing forever. It is ineffable because no one has comprehended it in order to speak about it. It is the one whose name cannot be spoken because no one exists before it to name it. So, and every time I read one of these or listen, like I got them on audiobook sometimes, it's like, okay, I'll listen to Deliverance, I'll listen to music, and then I'll listen to these. These are like one of the things I enjoy listening to, or reading and contemplating, etc. And, I could say there's a paragraph of like 10 sentences, right? And I read it on Monday. And like sentence number 3, like, hits me, and it's easy for me to contemplate that, and I get a glimpse of God. But it's not like a glimpse of God here. It's like I get taken there. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like I get taken there, and I'm in the presence of that for a short period of time through the contemplation. And then, say on Tuesday, I'll read those same 10 sentences, and sentence 4 takes me there, and sentence number 2 that took me there yesterday doesn't take me there anymore. So these help me a lot to really like to understand that God is like so much bigger and untouchable than we could fathom. And he wants to be known, but he also like is always going to be totally separate and sovereign. But he wants to be known. Anyways, I don't know where I'm going with all this. These texts have like helped me so much though, because something pretty, I consider this to be miraculous. Like a lot of what's in here, this Nag Hammadi, and the text from the Nag Hammadi library and the Lost Gospels, etc. Like the way God did it with me has impacted me so much, because a lot of the mindsets about, like a lot of the wisdom that's contained in them, God gave me a lot of this wisdom before I read these. So God gave me a lot of truth and wisdom that came when the Holy Spirit came in, like a lot, and it was like overwhelming at times. It was like this broadband, people say downloads, I don't know if I really agree with it, that like 77 bing bing, I don't know if I agree with like that much, like the downloads, but it was literally like, it was like some broadband, super fast stuff. Anyways, so, but he gave me that, and then, so there was already something different about it because of the way it came in. Like it was almost overwhelming. In addition to that, it's truth. And it's wisdom from God. And then when God gave me that wisdom and the truth, my heart knew it was true. Even though that style of thinking was super unpopular. I'd never heard it before. I'd never even come close to hearing any concept like that. For instance, I'll give you something. So, like Judas. Everybody is all upset at Judas. But Judas was very important in this whole thing. He was super duper important. And like, that's how God like sets it up. So I'm not saying Judas is somebody to like be admired or looked up to. But what I'm saying is like, it's like an inner knowing that came before reading these Lost Gospels, where the importance of Judas was like known and recognized in my heart. That it's like, that's God's secret sauce. That's like how he that's how he chooses to do it. He doesn't do it perfectly. He does it like perfectly, but a little messy at the same time. So basically, by like letting the devil do what the devil's going to do, God already knows what the devil's going to do. And he uses it all to accomplish what God's plan was the whole time. Anyways, so it's kind of like having the devil and the snake chase his own tail, and the devil's his own worst enemy. And I know I've said that a bunch of times on here, but this is kind of where it originated. And then in the Lost Gospels, I forget which one it was. Maybe it's the Gospel of Judas. I don't remember. But the Lord pulls Judas aside. I'm pretty sure. I could be like totally messing this up, but maybe you should read it for yourself. The Lord pulls Judas aside and he said, okay, he gave him a vision. And he goes, look at me on the cross, and then look at me. There's a man on a cross, and then there's a man in a tree laughing. He said, which one do you think represents me better? And then the Lord said, what represents me better is the man in the tree laughing. And basically he was saying that that's him winning. That's him winning. And like everyone's gonna be obsessed with like his death, but that's his triumphant victory. And he's laughing in the tree because like the devil's doing exactly what God wanted him to do. And like that's how he set us free. And I came into to see that and get that bit of download of wisdom when I learned about Ron Wyatt and that story of Ron Wyatt. If you guys have never heard of that, I suggest you look into it. It's pretty cool. And I believe that to be true because the Ron Wyatt thing, I believe that to be true because like God's timing and planning in the regard and the way that Ron Wyatt is explaining it is how God manifests to me. Like he does that to me all the time. His plans are like so precisely planned and perfect that it's like surprising of how good it is and how he uses everything. And it almost like it wouldn't have been possible without everything working so well. So anyways, so that was a big part of it for me. And so that's like a little piece of the wisdom, but there's like a lot more that came with it. A lot more. And then when I started to read these, then that inner wisdom that I felt was like, I knew it to be true, but I didn't have anything to back it up. Like nothing, except for, like, I probably got confirmations here and there. Like how I asked God for confirmation, he would like confirm it. So I believe it more and more. And like I said, I knew it to be true. But when God backed it up with these writings, it was like a whole nother level. It was great. So right away, right when I started reading these things and like getting a lot of those confirmations, I started to get like, to be able to really feel them and be into them, you know? So anyways, they've really helped me a lot. And I was thinking just now, the reason I'm making this video is because I was thinking about how these writings like work so well and just like bringing me close to God. So basically what they do for me is like, okay, I'm here in the world, right? And I read this, and for a second, it's possible for my mind to contemplate this. It's like getting a ticket, like a bus ticket, to go to God and come back. It's like God, when you read it, it's like it opens up something, and it's like it pulls you close to God, and then you come back to like normal reality. So it's like for a second. But a lot of that too is because, you know, I try to keep like a lot of the fluoride, all that crap. Like you really gotta like do what you can to keep your mind and the spiritual centers of your mind clear, and not for any type of new age stuff or anything like that, but literally for moments like this. Like I want my access to God to be as unhindered as possible. And I've noticed like there's a big difference in my spiritual relationship with God, and also the intensity and the levels at which it can go with being able to like him being able to show me things in a way that may not have been possible otherwise. So anyways, not that they wouldn't have been possible, but it's just like when you got all that crap from the food, they're feeding us so much crap, it's not even funny. All these chemicals and all this stuff, it's meant to kill your spirit. It's meant to kill your spirit. It's meant to like slow down your spiritual progress. So when you get all that stuff out and you consciously try to live in a way to where you're consuming as little of that as possible, it's almost impossible not to have that stuff, first off. However, when you make a conscious effort to navigate away from things that you know have that stuff in it, and then also maybe take some supplements to help clean those parts of your mind, then you notice a big difference. If you're a seeker, I'm a seeker. And so these texts are very awesome. They're blessed for me. They're blessed. I don't want to keep going into why they're blessed, but they just are. And they're like little bus tickets, and they just pull me right to God's presence. But it's a short trip. It's like it pulls me there, bam, and I can be in the presence of that immeasurable. I can be in the presence of that glorious, magnificent spirit that has nothing before it. So these concepts are like incomprehensible to your mind. They should be incomprehensible. However, for a brief moment, I can not only comprehend it, but I can be there with it. I can be there with it. And it's like, it's just so amazing. And another person who was sharing the gospel talked about how angels fly around singing glory, glory, glory in heaven. And the reason they do that is because like God is just, you can never fully know him. There's always more to know with him. He's like the unknowable, which is so great because like with God, it's so good. There's never going to be enough of him. Ever. There's never going to be enough of him. I got chills in my shins. I was thinking this earlier. I'm so glad I remember that. There's never, ever going to be enough of him. So when the angels fly around singing holy, 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 like they're just in reverence and awe of the unknowable, more than enough, El Shaddai, but also like just desiring more and more and more of it. It's just so good. He's so good. He possesses, and this is my own interpretation. This right here, what I'm going to say now, it's not anything that I've read in these things. This is a part of that wisdom that was not backed up in here. However, I know this to be true. This I feel more to be true than some of the things I just mentioned. But like God, he possesses certain qualities and characteristics, but it's like to the highest degree and the highest form possible. And it's just maybe it's only like that the level at which I can gaze up at something so awesome. But it's just so he's so impressive, and he'll just impress you with so much. And how he chooses to reveal himself to me is like always the best characteristics. And it's so deep, and it's so like amazing. But it's defined, and it's, you know, I don't think you could confine him or contain him. But it's so defined and within certain parameters of goodness, and it's so much higher. It's like he opens my mind to new levels of goodness that I didn't know exist. But once I catch a glimpse of it, and how he manifests in his love, with his relationship with me, basically, is what it is. When he reaches out, like basically he's like reaching down from heaven. Imagine like a tube. Imagine God for a moment makes a tube from himself in heaven to me here. And like for a second, I could look up that tube as far as my eye can see. And it's just like, it's better than I thought possible. But it's like tangible. When I look up at it, it's like, whoa, that's like really awesome. And it's impressive, etc. But anyways. So, just those feelings that I've had a couple handfuls of times where it's been very impactful, but it stays with me. And I contemplate those moments too. Like when God reveals himself to me like that, I try to dissect it and like really pay attention to like those little coincidences that you get, you know, the coincidences that you get. People call them synchronicities, whatever you want to call it. But if they're like touches from the Holy Spirit, try to unpack them and contemplate them and see everything that went into it. See and try to appreciate that perfect timing. And then also kind of like unwind time and see where the different components that made that coincidence possible. And kind of like rewind time and see like where in your mind, like where, okay, so this person was way over there. Like all these things, like all these moving parts that God, in his perfect timing, when you were in a spiritual mindset, in the right frame of mind, God like had all these things arranged for you. Like a nice arrangement of flowers. And a lot of times with me, it's to like, it's like a flattering way for him to tell me like he cares about me, he loves me, and he's thinking about me. With precision, perfect precision, and timing. But anyways, unpack those things, and then you'll learn a lot about God from unpacking those things and his style, and like what he chooses to use, and like a mindset that would be attached to that. So, for instance, this video is going to be pretty long, but for instance, I've had God like hijack my phone to where my phone calculations with my calculator, I'm putting in the right numbers, but God like somehow somehow like rearranged it to where I put the numbers in wrong, and it came out to the total for the thing that I was calculating, it came out to 77, and then that put me in God gear, And then right after that, I'm walking up somewhere and this door opens and there's this balloon that says, I love you. And it's a heart-shaped balloon. And the way it, like the door opens and this balloon, and like right before I see the balloon, God tells me in my heart, he goes, this is for you. And then this balloon like turns like this and it says, I love you on it. Oh, I could cry thinking about it. It says, I love you on it. So I pull up my phone, I take a picture of this open door, and then I walk in a little bit further to the house, and then I see, so here's the balloon up here. God put me in God gear, hijacked my mind and my heart. Before I saw this thing, he told me this is for you. It slowly faces and turns and faces me. Boom. It was the sweetest thing. It inspired me to take a picture of it. I felt so moved by it. I took a picture of it. Look, it's like a little heart in my eye. I was so inspired. I took a picture of it. Then I walk a little bit more into that open doorway, and the person, coincidentally, the person had the Torah. It was like an old one too. This thing had like, it was like this thick, leather bound, Hebrew letters on the front, but it was positioned in a place of honor in the house. And it was on a stand, and it was like, man, it was like the head of the house, which I really appreciated that now thinking about it. Anyways, so what happened later was the people, when they were like doing the math, they were checking up on the numbers to make sure everything was good. They're like, hey, you know, you messed up on that math that day for this job. You know, the math got messed up, and it was actually supposed to be something different, and it was in the company's favor, so it didn't really matter. But so I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, you know, I did everything right. God literally, he doesn't care about anything. He doesn't care about, he will put you, I got put through hell that day, but he will put you through hell to lead you somewhere, to disregard somebody's business, somebody's money, somebody's everything. Disregard it all to show you how much he cares about you. He'll do that. So he doesn't care about anything in this world. He cares about his children. He cares about us. So he will, like I said, disregard, like, so this is a facet of God's character. So, and it only came by contemplating and unpacking this thing and trying to learn a lesson. So God manifested and loved me in that moment, made me feel like there might as well have not been a city around me. It might as well have just been that house on like an actor's studio, where just God is like just out there, and there's nothing around at all in the whole universe but this house and me in that moment, and the presence of God over it. That's how it felt. And he'll do that, and he wants to do that. That's his desire. He wants to do that, and he wants to show you that, like, you are so important. He wants to show, like, he wants to give you like a little love note, like a universal consciousness, awesome, godly, holy way to give you a love note. Like, that's a part of his character is he really wants to do that. So he'll do that, and then, like I said, a lesson that I learned is like he'll let you go through a bunch of crap to get you there. Almost like having you go through all that on purpose to get you there, and then also disregarding a bunch of things that other people care about, whether you're afraid or not of messing up at work or whatever. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He cares about like that special thing that he has planned for you. You got to be open to it. You got to love him with all your heart. And like try to do the same level of things like that to the best of your ability to him, and then he'll respond in that fashion and do something so simple too. It just seems so silly and so small, but it's not. When you're first personing this, when you're the object of God's affection, it's not just external things. It's the internal, and it's how he'll like take over your faculties and show you that it's him, and then back it up with something. And then even though it might seem small, like a balloon, in a doorway, just the precision and the perfect timing of it, and then him telling me it's for me. I'm telling you, it's literally like, I know God's not the balloon or any of that stuff, but that's kind of what it felt like for that moment, where God was just looking at me with like so much love. And so it's these lessons, you know, that if you unpack those things and you contemplate on them, you'll learn a lesson and how God, like, what vehicle of love, what highway of love he'll travel down to get to you, to meet you where you are. And so that's just one of them, you know. And there's a lot of other like lessons like that I've learned, that contemplation, I think, is very important, especially when it comes to God. Like, you want to get to know God, so yes, you contemplate his word, but also contemplate his character and how he manifests to you. It's so important, because that's where you like really fall in love. That's like the really, really good stuff, because it's so personal to you. And it like has to be that way, because he wants to show you that you're the most important person in the entire world. He wants to show you that. It's his desire. He wants to show you that. He wants to prove it to you too. He will too. He'll prove it to you. That contemplation is very, very important. Anyways, so the Nag Hammadi library, like this one here, is the Apocryphon of John. So this is John, right? This is John, same guy from the Bible. And this is Jesus manifesting to him, giving him visions, but nobody's teaching us about this stuff. And in a way, it's a good thing, because it's like God is like keeping this for certain people. Like, this stuff will find you. This might be a step of it finding you this way, but whatever it is, for me, it's incredible. It's incredible for that contemplation, because it's so wonderful to be able to glimpse God for just a second, just to like barely glimpse him. And it's not that I'm doing anything, it's by God's grace. So anytime, and this is another thing too, so sometimes like I'll be walking and like I'll have the feeling or the urge to like do something nice for God or what have you, right? And sometimes I won't do it. Like, whatever, I'm not feeling strong enough at that point, I guess, or something, whatever it is. Like, I'm too afraid of other people's opinion, maybe. Sometimes he asks me to do things like in front of people, like display my love for him in front of people. Anyways, sometimes I won't do it, but really what it is, it's not me like having the idea, it's God by his grace inviting me. It's like an invitation. It's like whenever you have an inclination or an idea to do something nice for God, or a way to like pull close to God and show God that you think he's important, more important than you or whatever you got going on at that moment. It's not you thinking that stuff, it's God inviting you. It's because he loves you. It's an incredible privilege to even have that thought. It's an incredible privilege to even have that thought. So I learned this a long time ago, long time ago, when I would come home and I would lay down on bed and I would grab the remote for the TV. I haven't watched TV in like 4 years or something like that. But I would after a long day of work, super tired, and I would grab the remote, and right when I would point it at the TV, God would be like, "Hey, why don't you like spend some time and talk to me?" Right? Always at that time. You gotta understand, it's gonna be 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be at a time where it seems difficult. It's gonna be difficult, and that's another part of God's character. This is another way that he so he'll show you ways and pieces of himself. He wants to be known. He wants you to know him. The unknowable wants you to know him. It's crazy. It's so awesome. Flattering. It's so flattering because he doesn't do this with everybody. This is an incredibly intense personal relationship that God will have with you if you put him first and you just get your heart right. Hopefully that's it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just special, whatever it is. I have a heart that just, I love God so much. Anyways, so I go to turn on the TV and God would be like, hey, why don't we hang out? And there are times where I would turn the TV on. But then there are also times where I would like set the remote down and I would listen to God. See, that was probably like 10, 15 years ago. Those things would happen to me, and I would either listen to the call. It was like God's calling me. I would either pick up the phone or I would like let it go to voicemail. So that's how I looked at it back then. And now I look at it like it's literally by God's grace. It's an invitation, and it's a privilege. It's a massive privilege. It's not a little one. It's huge. God is like, he's wanting to spend time with you. And even if you turn on the TV, it's okay. It's okay. Because I always, like, not always, but like, I still do that. God invites me to do something nice for him, or like put him first, or display my love for him in public. And I want to, but I just don't. But it's like he's showing you where you're at. And it's not a bad thing. The fact that he's even doing that, and that you're even having those thoughts, puts you 10 million light years ahead of everything. Because it's God's grace doing that. It's not you doing anything. So that's another piece of like God's character. It's like it's I don't want to shrink him, but it's cute in a way. It's cute in a way. I don't know another word for it. Where he's like, he'll wait for like a time where he knows you're like, he knows it's like, for you it's like the worst time, if there ever was a worst time. I feel so dumb even saying that, but in like my human mind, it's like the worst time. God, you couldn't do this like on the way home when I'm like driving or something. He'll wait until you like get all that relaxed thing. You've been working for this all day, and and he'll wait for that moment. Boop. And it's like adorable. It's like a little frustrating, but it doesn't take away from the fact that that's a facet of the Almighty God desiring you in that moment, and he just wants you to desire him too. So God could be doing anything, but in that moment he's focused on you. He's focused on you, and he's pointing his attention at you, right? Remember, this is the ultimate sovereign. There's nobody before him. Nobody can judge him. Nobody can name him, because nobody came before him. The Almighty, who doesn't need you, but he focuses on you. Bam! In that moment. And he just wants you to like focus back. And then there came a time too where I had to like realize that like this stupid TV, this dumb TV, this dead thing, I'm like putting before God. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy when you like have a moment of clarity and truth about it. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. I'm not trying to convict anybody or anything like that. But it's like these ways God shows you who he is. It's like breathtaking. And I just want more and more and more of it. So another thing with this video is, you know, the holiness and the purity and all that stuff. Like when I save up, like when I abstain sexually from things, from everything, my connection to God is so much better. It's like night and day. My level of happiness, everything is just so much better. And sometimes, like, I don't know, I don't necessarily think you have to like lose something to realize, I don't know, whatever it is. I've learned like some hard lessons recently that like it's just important. That's like one of the most important, it's probably the most important thing. But so that's a surefire way to like really help that spiritual connection a lot more. And another thing, that's like by God's grace too. You know, it's like it's literally God's holiness and God's righteousness in me or in somebody that even gives you the power to abstain or live holy. That's it. It's by God's grace, because God is allowing it. It's because His presence in you is big enough to where you have that power. Otherwise, you just have no power. You don't have power over it. That's just the way it is. You don't. So this is gonna be a long video, 40-minute video. But listen, whatever. Really, I make these videos for me, and I make them for God. That's it, really. You know, sometimes, never mind. God just told me not to say it. God, I love you so much. You're the best in the whole world. You really are. I want to know more and more and more about you. So much more. So anyways, God's character is just amazing and wonderful. All right. So I think I'm going to wrap this one up. Post it just to post it. All right. Plead the blood of Jesus on this video.